Over there! Jesus.
Got him.
Hey, nice.
Any of you guys Cub Scouts? Surprisingly ineffective at preparing you for some shit like this.
Excuse me, kid. Jesus. Come on, let's go.
I'm coming, Bill. Keep your beard on.
I hate walking.
I really love Left 4 Dead. It is one of the very few games that I still have a strong sense of nostalgia towards. The music, the characters, the environment, the world building, everything about the series is a pleasant throwback to the years and years past. The very first game came out in 2008 when I was only just 6 years old. You may say my parents were bad for letting a 6-year-old girl play a gory zombie game, but maybe? I did end up having repeat nightmares of a zombie dog, but I actually think that was Madagascar's fault. Either way, I have been obsessed with zombies for as long as I can remember, playing flash games like Lab of the Dead, Rebuild, Last Stand, and Union City, watching random old videos like Don't Feed the Zombies, Zombie Infection, Zombie Nation, all at the ripe old development stage. I don't really know why, but zombies just caught my attention more than any other horror trope. So, out of all zombie media I enjoy, why does Left 4 Dead seem to top it? Now, off the bat, Left 4 Dead was different. A breath of fresh air that was in line with the growing popularity of first-person shooters. The thing I love and loved most about Left 4 Dead is that it was genuinely different. It had that perfect mix of storytelling and gameplay to where it's not exactly just a story and not exactly just a shooting game. There was effort in making the game replayable, little things hidden in areas players would never consider to look, a level of detail that made casual players more engaged. Obviously, because I was super young, I couldn't really read any of the writing on the walls or posters about the events in games, but that didn't stop me from learning more about the story. One very unique aspect that a lot of Valve games have is their developer commentary. As a kid, I would just walk around listening to them talk about the way they built their game, their thought process, things they removed, and things they altered, all while the zombies around you just ignores you. Once I heard everything the developers had to say, I'd just look around and explore the world as thoroughly as possible. I'm not sure why, but I'd play for hours just staring at the models of things you could find anywhere in real life. There was something that amazed my very tiny brain looking at the textures, something as simple as a fridge light turning on and off and hitting an alarm to get it to stop flashing were tiny, barely noticeable things that had absolutely zero impact on gameplay, but it just made the game feel so much more, not to mention the numerous routes you could take that would lead you to the exact same spot. For context as to why this was probably so cool to me then, I'm from a small Welsh village, a literal village where the most interesting thing was a bowling alley that actually went out of business not too long ago. I had never seen skyscrapers or cities like in Left 4 Dead, so I was just enamored by the layout of everything and how you could genuinely just go almost anywhere. Now that I've explained my personal reasoning as to why I like Left 4 Dead so much, I'm going to go in depth about each of the games, the lore, the visuals, the music, and my personal favourite being some of the open-ended theories. Keep in mind this video is my personal opinion, theories, and interests. You could disagree, you could agree. Either way, don't spike each other over it. Also, keep in mind that this is a full in-depth exploration of the entire series. If you haven't played this game and want to experience it all for yourself first, please go and do that. For everyone else that stayed, or for those that have returned in the future, let's carry on starting with the very first game, Left 4 Dead. Hi guys, it's MEOWNTE. I finished the intro and I thought it would be funny to share that right after I finished, I literally got the flu. So, it's really funny doing a video on a zombie universe where the infection starts with a flu, an influenza, and now I fucking got it. Yay! Now, the first Left 4 Dead is very remarkable in its style, being that it is dark, gritty, and scary. Its trailer is delivered to us in the form of a beautifully animated story created to introduce us to our cast of characters, the zombies, each special infected, and more specifically, its key signifier. Now, a key signifier is often a standout visual that delivers information about its primary theme, structure, or story. It's meant to be recognised by us as players as a symbol of the Left 4 Dead franchise, hence why we see it in the first few seconds, on billboard ads, and on all of the console covers. The hand in Left 4 Dead signifies only a few key details, that this is a zombie game given it's a disembodied rotten hand, and that the fingers represent the 4 in Left 4 Dead. Valve does have a knack for creating very literal visuals to act as logos for their games, with Valve's own studio logo scene being of a literal red valve placed on the back of a man's head. We get to see how Bill, Francis, Lewis, and Zoe very briefly interact with each other, see each special infected, with the boomer being shown first as remains and the rest being introduced in their own seconds where they attempt to attack each character. We also get a brief view of the weaponry scenery with the Molotov and pipe bomb being showcased alongside a small roster of guns. The most interesting segment in the trailers, however, is how it all ties back to the game. The end of the trailer shows the survivors barely making it to the rooftop of the apartment complex, and the first level of the game starts on that exact roof. There's some visual discrepancies where we don't get to see any of the carnage you'd expect from that movie scene to be, but you do see the collapsed fire exit blocking the path the survivors presumably just came from. I like this trailer so much because it has so much effort put into it. It's like a miniature movie, and intentionally done so. Left 4 Dead's main theme is that it tries to capture horror elements you'd find in movies like Quarantine. There's no reveal of what the UI may look like, how the game actually plays, or actually any level objective. The visuals of Left 4 Dead are all dark, with most chapters taking place during the nighttime, with the only exception being Blood Harvest, of which still keeps up with the moody atmosphere by placing the survivors in a thick fog that blocks out the bright sun. It's important to detail that there are two versions of Left 4 Dead, with the original game and then a slightly remade version for Steam's Left 4 Dead 2 port, so there are some visual differences between the Left 4 Dead we remember and the Left 4 Dead that you'll find as part of the second game's collection. The visuals themselves are also just slightly different in a way that I almost can't really explain. No Mercy is a really good example of showing off just how differently the maps feel when playing the original port versus the second. There's subtle alterations that you don't really notice until you compare the two side by side, and suddenly you realise just how nostalgic the initial maps really feel. Speaking of nostalgia, a few of the assets present in Left 4 Dead are also actually from Half-Life, like the newspaper with Dr. Breen's face on them. That will come up again later. But Left 4 Dead is grungy. You get to feel the layout to different environments ranging from apartment complexes to rooftops to sewers, to full fields of wheat, to tiny little towns. It's all there, and remarkably, each of those areas keep that same gloomy aesthetic. Everything is dilapidated, walls are broken down, floors have been caved in, fire sparks in corners, cars are strewn about, and pieces of trash litter the areas. It feels lonely and isolated, but occupied by something frightening at the same time, and this gets amplified by its audio. What really elevates that experience of playing Left 4 Dead is when the visuals are paired with its very iconic music and sound design. When you stand still inside a building, you hear distant sniffling, a witch gasp, the creaking, the humming of the apartment. The environment around you continues to shift, and the game doesn't let the tense atmosphere dwindle. The world feels both abandoned by human life, but those little gasps prevent an uncomfortable presence that someone else is close by, whether it be a survivor or a victim of the infection. Outside, you'll hear the wind blowing, the sound of huge buildings around you creaking and groaning on the verge of collapse, distant gunshots, and the sounds of explosions in the distance. All while audio stings fade in and out, the sound of a choir similar to shrieking, the growing piano keys, the rising violin, all noises that seemingly play just to keep you feeling that near constant tension. This is all without the actual music that plays in key areas, like how each chapter has its own unique start of intro tune, paired with the fact that each safe room will also have its own unique soundtrack tied to that specific chapter too. Some parts of the natural ambience that I showed you are also specific to certain chapters, titled Contagion. This file holds snippets of audios like the piano keys that I find to be the most nostalgic, but it also holds this trumpet tune that I really vividly remember disliking, not because it sounded bad, but just because it scared me very well back then. My favourite thing that I have had to do particularly for this video is go through the sound files, listen to all of the interesting segments they have and what each audio is named and categorised as. We have two ambience categories, one for specific areas and random ambience that will play like distant explosions, the sound of paper blowing in the wind, the sound of rats, flies and even frogs. All audios you wouldn't think you've heard until you play it again and realise, oh, there's that sound file. Again, Half-Life is found here in the sound files. Going to sound, ambient, levels actually takes you to a file titled Citadel that is filled with strange talk audio cues that just sound like this. There's also scarier sounds that you might recognize, not just from Half-Life, but in almost every Gmod horror map. I got it. Either way, the audio is created to be distinct, and it's when we get to the second game that the signature audio has become a lot more prevalent. Before I go anywhere near touching the second game and its contents though, we still have a lot to look at within the first. So my next look is my favourite. The lore. The name of the zombie virus in this series is referred to as the green flu, and in the trailer we get a good look at why it might be called that. Unlike a lot of other zombie media, we don't get the explanation for this outbreak directly. Rather, we get little snippets of information from our playable characters and random environmental scenes like military mapping, or most commonly, the random scribbles on the wall from previous survivors in all of the safe rooms. In the trailer, Bill, the old man, mentions that the infected are changing.
Don't let that stop you from smearing it all over yourself.
They're changing.
God damn it, Bill! Oh, it stinks!
And we are shown in the introduction that it has only been 2 weeks since the initial infection, telling us that the virus has not only spread catastrophically quickly, but that it's evolving and mutating faster than initially expected. In fact, in the comic series released online, the military outposts that our group of survivors are taken to are completely unaware of the existence of the mutated special infected, and are later completely overburdened by said infected. The game itself shows us how destructive the virus has been, not just to the people, but to the environment, and when played chronologically, we get to witness the scope of destruction firsthand as the world's lore slowly unravels. I'll try to tackle most of Left 4 Dead's story in a clear and coordinated manner, but the biggest issue with the first game is that it wasn't given the same brevity the second had when it came to character and story development, but Valve made up for it with extra DLC campaigns and that aforementioned comic. Our earliest look into the Left 4 Dead universe is actually with the comic, created for the very last DLC level that we get to see our original cast in. Each comic covers 4 main characters who themselves are actually very basic when it comes to their archetypes. You have Bill, the old disgruntled war veteran labelled Nambet in the game files, Francis, the nihilistic and idiotic criminal titled Biker in the game files, Lewis, the unbearably optimistic tech guy titled Manager in the game files, and finally Zoe, the realist that acts as a middle ground titled Teen Girl in the game files. Starting in order, we have
T-minus 7 seconds.
His story starts in hospital where he's about to undergo a surgery to fix a war injury to his kneecap. He comes across as standoffish and aggressive to a healthcare worker that questions him about his family, hinting that he either doesn't have any or no longer has contact with them. He's also just a bit of a bastard and scares off the doctor in training. His first experience with the infection is when he's attacked while under heavy sedation, and somehow through the sheer adrenaline, he is able to defend himself and somehow safely make it back home, butt naked, to collect his previous accolades and attire from the war. Just noticed by looking at his military trunk that it says Overbeck W, so it turns out his actual full name is William Overbeck. This has actually been confirmed for ages. In fact, Zoe actually can call Bill by his full name.
William!
And I just never heard it. You can see Bill wearing this old military uniform in the game as his main outfit, and you may also notice that he is always smoking a cigarette. Bill's main character acts as the leader. Given his previous military experience, he is definitely more than fit for the role, and endearingly, over time his character does develop into one that is very beloved by all of its players. Next, we have Francis, with the earliest his story begins being 2 days after the infection, where he's caught by an officer attempting to steal a flat screen TV, and amazingly tries to worm his way out of trouble by impersonating a police officer. Francis also attempts this in games sometimes, and you can hear it in the voice lines here.
We're cops! Open up! Man, I don't think that cop thing worked. Attention, boat owner! We are the cops! I command you to pick us up! Attention, Army! This is the cops!
This doesn't work, and he's scheduled to go to prison the next day. His missus, that he doesn't even know the name of, decides to waste no time in saying her proper goodbyes, but turns midway, biting him on the neck. She is killed by one of his bar buddies, and he excitingly realizes that zombies cannot arrest him. Francis refers to the zombie apocalypse as one of the best days of his life, despite shockingly being seen as a rather nihilistic character. He is brazenly stupid, but in a very funny and charming way, having over 20 voice lines that just depict him stating how much he hates a random item.
I hate sewers. I hate hospitals, and doctors, and lawyers, and cops. I hate elevators. I hate stairs. I hate train yards. I hate helicopters. I hate small towns. I hate the water. I hate lawyers. When are they gonna get done practicing law?
Now, Lewis is our team's optimist. Before the outbreak, he is shown begging a co-worker to come in, downplaying the severity of the flu and talking about the potential reward of being the only people to show up to work. Based on his co-worker's responses, it is part of Lewis's nature to view everything as the glass half full, which is just a euphemism to say he can find a good outlook on literally everything. Obviously though, this doesn't turn out to be the case of it blowing over in a week, but he still somehow retains the belief that the world will one day go back to normal.
When things go back to normal, Zoe, Bill, I'm giving you both jobs. Francis, I'm gonna teach your ass how to read. Humanity's gonna bounce right back, you watch. Hey, come on, cheer up, we're almost through.
Lewis is not blindly optimistic, but rather remains optimistic seemingly for his own sake and mental well-being. Where Francis happily accepts reality, Lewis rejects it in any way that he can. And finally, we have our only female character, Zoe. Her story takes place at her father's apartment, where she can be seen stuck between an argument that her divorced parents are having about her future, where her mother wants her to pursue a degree in film and movie, and her father wants her to join him in the police force. Zoe's mother Lynn is attacked and bitten by a zombie that breaks in, before shortly turning and attacking Zoe's father Wade. Her father then begs her to shoot him so that he doesn't become infected, and it's unfortunately revealed that given Zoe was immune to the virus, her father was also likely to be immune too. This also explains why the survivors are a majority male, as the gene that causes immunity is typically found on the father's side, or just commonly in men, which is better wording. All four of these characters interact with each other in different ways. Bill forms a sort of fatherly bond with Zoe, and Lewis and Francis are always at wits, with Zoe very occasionally balancing the two out with her attempts at humour. Their relationships don't develop as clearly as the ones we see in the second game. How our characters met is a mystery, and we don't really know how long they'd been with each other before their first appearance. So let's get into the actual story within the game. Hey, remember the video where I said, haha, I got the flu? That was when it was at its tamest, so I've actually just got out with a rough bit of it. And I've been editing this video the whole time that I've been sick, so I apologise for how gross I sound, for how odd some of the writing is. I shit you not, I like busted out this video, peak flu, on so much medicine, like just delirious out of my mind. Like I hope you enjoy. The first time we see the group together is actually in the trailer, and by then they already appear to be very familiarised with each other, with Bill clearly leading and the rest of them following close by. They're very attentive to each other's safety and very quickly notice when one is missing from the pack or out of place. I assume they've known of each other for just over a week, given they're alone by day 2 of the infection, but are closely grouped up by the second week. In their story, the main goal of the survivors is to find safety, and at the very start, that's finding an evacuation point to be rescued by the military. Our very first chapter takes place in No Mercy, where we find ourselves on top of that apartment complex from before. Our survivors are told by a passing helicopter to get to Mercy Hospital for evacuation. They pass through the apartment complex, onto the street and into the subway via a maintenance tunnel. A lot of the pathways the survivors take are incredibly convenient and inconvenient at the same time. They can't just simply walk down the street because that way is blocked, and they also can't just walk down the subway line because of course that is also blocked. So it's up on top of a roof, into a building and down into the sewers instead. Interestingly also, with each new chapter we can actually visually see us getting closer to the hospital building until we are right in front of it. I love Mercy Hospital the most because it is a really interesting scene. Plus, I always feel like there's a hospital section in almost every type of zombie media, but we never really get to explore it much, unlike in this game. My particular favourite is the transition between floors. There are areas that are just frozen in time, but once you get to the ICU, it is a bit more carnage. More bodies strewn about and signs of survivors trying to fight against them with the barricade. A lot of people like to theorise that Mercy Hospital housed patient 0, given there's a single room sectioned off with tape for a single patient who appears to have turned while inside. What I find the most interesting though is that every single blood bag for infusion is labelled as being contaminated. Given this hospital is frozen in time, it seems like the furthest they got was understanding that it could be transmitted via blood and mark the disease as highly infectious. I personally don't think Mercy Hospital was ground zero, just because it wouldn't make sense to have the evac point take place where it started, exposing the civilians to a highly infectious disease, but that's just a theory, you never know. All that's confirmed is that the outbreak started in Pennsylvania, where the first game actually takes place. The survivors make it up to the rooftop, where they call for a helicopter rescue. Left 4 Dead has these very unique end-level horde battles, where you have to survive by fighting off a repeat of a horde, a tank, another horde, and then both. This rooftop scene was also changed quite a bit in its re-release on Steam. It initially had a small back room and a closet that most players would camp out in, so to force players to engage more with the environment, they've removed the closet and back wall with the stairs. I understand why they did it, but I do wish they kept it. The survivors are then picked up by the helicopter and briefly taken away. The canonical next level is titled Crash Course. This was a short DLC level that they had added in during the port to Left 4 Dead 2 to make the survivors' jump to death toll more coherent. In this level, the survivors have crash landed after their pilot turned and was subsequently shot by Zoe. We can actually find the pilot's corpse over here, and depending on what playable character we've chosen, a funny conversation will actually pop up about what just happened.
I still can't believe you shot the pilot.
He turned into a zombie, Francis. He wasn't gonna land the thing.
Well, I guess now we'll never know, will we? Wow, I love helicopters. I love them so much.
You what? Francis, are you all right?
Whoa, must have hit my head in the crash. I'm okay now. I hate helicopters.
I knew it was too good to last.
I got a bad feeling about this. Oop, it passed. I think we're gonna be just fine.
Unfortunately, Bill has zero new dialogue during this chapter, as his voice actor, Jim French, was entirely unavailable during recording for this particular campaign. Francis gets the most new voice lines within this introduction segment, having over 30 separate lines, while Zoe and Lewis have just over 10. This level is incredibly brief, only having 2 chapters, the shortest campaign in the whole franchise. The survivors travel through an industrial depot, across the bridge that they have to unbarricade using a projectile, and towards a recycling plant to steal an armoured truck. The decision to travel to Riverside is also contextualized here, as the only remaining safe room has a text from previous survivors that have headed in that direction. Although Riverside was already mentioned in graffiti back in No Mercy. In all honesty, this is one of my least favourite maps. It's very bland and boring, and I think that's why it's so short. Also, the conveniently placed armoured truck in a recycling plant of all places is just an odd one. The only detail I really liked was this torso with no legs in the middle of nowhere, only to find that his legs were still by his sleeping bag up the hill. That's probably the most dreadful example of visual storytelling that I found so far in the game, made worse by the fact that a tank spawns in between the dupe body parts in game. Now, back on track, we have Death Toll. Now that the connection between No Mercy and this level has been properly linked, I can talk about how scary this one was for me. I'm not sure if this is the darkest level of the game, but it feels like it. The survivors have to walk on foot to the end of a tunnel to make their way towards Riverside. Along the way, we get to see a lot more environmental destruction. An entire bridge has been collapsed, a car tunnel is nearly caving in, and there are cars that we have to climb over everywhere. We make our way through the car's tunnel interior and find ourselves seemingly in the middle of nowhere, with our only option forward being through these huge water pipes. I fucking hated this level. I'm pretty sure there was some fake myth online about this level having a secret monster or something. Either way, I really don't like scary water levels, even if the water is just below the knees. We thankfully pop out into the open again and find ourselves just outside of Riverside within the train depot. This specific level is widely beloved because of its very unique alarm scene. Typically in every campaign there is usually 1 alarm per level, but you need to do something that would be loud enough to trigger a horde event. In this specific level, you aren't the ones alerting the horde this time, but rather a disgruntled survivor holed up inside the church. Now the church building may look different to some of you, and that's because it is. They intentionally removed some of the barricades so that the infected had more entry points. I wouldn't mind this if they changed it to look like it had been broken down first, rather than just left out in the open. It's clear a lot of people were hiding out here, so it takes away some of that realism to have the place so unprotected. When you approach the church, you'll find the man inside talking to himself in a frenzy about how he needs to be better safer than sorry.
I trusted you. You said you were immune? You said you were immune. That's better safe than sorry. I can't believe he bit me. I never should have let him in. Better safe than sorry. No matter how human they look, won't be fooled twice. It's been an hour. It's been an hour. Must be immune. That's right. It must be immune. No, I have to be immune. I can hear you out there. I'm gonna start ringing this church bell if you don't say something!
He is actively losing his mind trying to convince himself that he's okay. We can try to engage with him to get him to let us in, with each of our characters having different dialogue attempts that all end the same way.
We're as human as they come, son, I promise you.
No!
Son, we're immune, we're tired, and there's infected in the damn woods. Now cut out the shit and let us in.
No! You said that last time! I trusted you last time! Ding dong! Ding dong!
This guy's nuttier than candy bar shit.
Let's see. I'm Francis, and that's Grandpa Bill, and there's zombies out here! Open the goddamn door!
Only when you can prove you're immune. And I know just how to do it.
I'm gonna tear that bell down and shove it up your ass.
Go away! No one gets in! Ding dong! Ding dong! Dinner served! Come and get it!
Sir, please, we're not infected.
Only when I know you're human. Get ready for the test.
Mister, if one of us gets killed out here, I'm gonna shoot my way in there and beat you to death with my gun.
trying to intimidate me? Didn't help! Ding dong! Ding dong! Is someone there? I've got a bell in here. No! You think you're special with your leather jackets and your fancy blood?
What?
I'm gonna ring this bell. I'm gonna ring the bell. And they'll come and they'll finish the job.
I don't believe this.
Who's there? Is someone there? Go away! No one gets in!
You know, we can make you open that goddamn door.
Well, you'll have to be alive to do that.
I'm gonna tell that.
My favourite bit about this scene is that once you finish the Horde event, you can hear him behind the door choking and turning into a special infected.
Must be in here.
We take refuge inside the church before making our way through Riverside Town to get to the coastline, which is where the survivals will happen upon a radio connecting us to a boating couple called John and Amanda Slater. This is where our finale happens. We have to fight off the oncoming hordes as we wait for the boating couple to come and collect us. Really fun fact about the visuals across the water: the first game used to be so foggy that you could just about make out flames, but in its port to Left 4 Dead 2, the fog was toned down, and you could finally see the city across the water on fire. This city is actually a homage to our next chapter, Deadair. We are going to be actively boating towards an entire city on fire. Our cast of survivors end up actually getting mugged by the couple, having their weapons stolen from them and then cast aside near the docks of the burning city. I don't actually know how they got up into the greenhouse, but the dock that they must have been kicked off at is directly across the road. I actually didn't realise that this area here is meant to be docks. I always just thought it faded out into nothingness until I no-clipped over there and saw it had boats and docking sheds. Regardless, the survivors now have to make their way down to the ground floor as they attempt to find an airport to commandeer an airplane, thinking it must be a better method of escape than all previous other failed attempts. We get a good look at the burning city from this level. You'll see buildings reduced to rebar and ash in the distance and hear them croak and groan from afar. My favourite thing about this level is that we are consistently climbing up and down buildings. There's a nice level of parkour in this level as we have to climb up boxes to get to his fire escape, and we have to move a crane to climb over rooftops so that we can navigate through this really creepy office setting back out onto the streets. We then traverse through a construction site, and annoyingly, even though I just complimented the parkour aspect, they added a fence that you have to jump over in the middle of what was once just an empty path. And because it was just an empty path before, my brain always tells me that I'm going the wrong way, or that I'm somehow about to softlock myself behind bounds. I just hate it. Once we get through that though, we can find ourselves at the airport where it is just chaos. The entrance is blocked and there's luggage all over the place. You can get up close to a crashed airplane, but you'll see no casualties inside, almost as if they just got up and left, which I get was just because they didn't want to have to model any crash victims in, but I think it makes it creepier when you think about it as them all just getting up zombified and leaving. Once we get into the building, it's no different. That van we could see outside the airport wall actually ends up being useful to us as a way to knock down the barricade, and we're able to climb through the luggage truck area to get to the main airport arena. The cutscene for the finale is insane. If you notice it in time, you can watch a distant plane slowly descend and crash into the airport that our survivors are standing in, and they'll react to it too. Our final goal for this chapter is to fill up the gas tank for the plane whose pilot was stuck after his partner died trying to refuel it. And once that's done, the survivors gleefully escape into the distance. Until that plane also comes crashing down in Allegheny Forest, and the survivors are forced yet again to find another viable evacuation plan. Travelling through a national forest into some backwoods train depots and finally arriving at a nearby farmhouse that was previously used by the military as an outpost. It's here that our cast of survivors is taken to the main military hub that we see in the main story of the Sacrifice comic, and it's in this particular part of the comic where we got a lot of important information about the world outside of our group of survivors. We are told about the existence of carriers, people who have an immunity to the green flu and end up transmitting the disease to those who are around them, explaining why each attempt of escape has ended in disaster. We're also shown how incompetent the military is, how little understanding they have of the actual virus, and how hostile even humans have become towards each other. It's made very clear from the beginning that being a carrier is a dangerous thing, with soldiers fearing the survivors doing so much as breathing on them unmasked. While the team is separated into pairs, with Zoe and Bill with the Doctor, and Lewis and Francis held in guarded containment, there's a major disagreement between militia behind scenes that causes a small platoon of men to betray their leader, sounding the alarm and attempting to flee. All of these militant men and women die, even the Doctor, who was mere inches away from escape, only to be caught last minute by the infected, all because Bill would not slow down the train that they were escaping on for the sake of keeping his own safe. This causes a strain between him and Zoe as she blames him for a preventable death. Our very final chapter for our survivors is called The Sacrifice. With our team of survivors finally realising they cannot go back to normal lives and that zombies will follow them everywhere, they decide to start new on an isolated island away from civilization. They just need to find a sailboat. Zoe is still conflicted and the rift between her and Bill remains during this chapter.
This is the middle of nowhere. We left all those people behind for this?
Zoe, come on. We have to work together.
Lewis, you of all people should understand.
Come on. We have to keep moving.
While searching for a boat, Lewis gets his leg injured by a witch in a yacht full of witches, and this in turn makes him move slower. They find a boat filled to the brim with supplies and find that in order to sail out of the docks, they must leave the boat and raise a bridge to pass through, which leads to the main event of the story. Upon starting the generator and waiting for the bridge to finish raising, the generator halts and the bridge is stuck at a height low enough for the hordes and hordes of endless zombies to come at them, an essential sealed fate of death for them all. It isn't until Bill jumps off the bridge to restart the generator where he's mortally wounded by a tank just as he is about to return to his group. Bill accepts his fate, but he still puts up a fight, feeling at peace now that he knows his team will be safe. The last scene of the comic shows the remaining survivors escape on a boat, heading towards a small island. All we know of their ending is that they made it. Nothing else. So this video was meant to be much longer, with the next chapter about Left 4 Dead 2 and chapters 3 and 4 about the special infected, cut content, mods and random lore. Only issue is that my PC is genuinely terrible, so I ran out of memory and storage just from editing this section alone, and I have to upload it now just so that I can continue the rest. I hope you guys have enjoyed this first section so far. Hopefully this video performs well enough for me to be able to replace my PC so that this never happens again. Let me know your thoughts, opinions, and just general stuff about Left 4 Dead. My last video blew up and got over 700 comments, and I genuinely loved reading all of them, even the ones that didn't like me. As always, also, thanks to my Patreons, Admiral, Matea, my wife, George, Trek, Maymay, and Ducky. If you'd like to join this list, you can do so by helping me over on my Patreon. I've been posting behind the scenes of mostly my time modelling and animating my own tacky Left 4 Dead character. And if you want to join in on my streams, I will likely be streaming myself playing the entirety of Left 4 Dead just so I don't take up all my storage again. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed, and goodbye.